Namaskar and a very good evening. I am Mukta Kandial. Welcome you all in our this live interactive session on school leadership development. And today we will be discussing context responsive school leadership focus on the char areas of Assam. And you're watching this program on PMeVIDYA channel number 6, 9 and 12 and also on our YouTube channel that is NCERT official. And we are also joined by one of the guests who will be giving us the information on the topic we will be discussing today. And the guest we are having today is Dr. Subita G.V. Menon. Ma'am is Assistant Professor at NCSL NIPA. Namaskar ma'am, बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है आपके सत्र में. And to all our viewers, I would like to inform that if you have any queries, any question related to today's session, you can call us on a number that is 8800440559. You can also write to us at our email address, and email address are flashing on your screens right now. Also, if you have any query that you would like to connect with us, you can also connect with us through our YouTube channel that is NCERT official through live chat box option over there. So without any further delay, let's start today's session and we'll directly head to Subita ma'am and we'll ask ma'am. So ma'am, we'll start today's session by I'll request you to please highlight what all discussion we will be having today in this session.
Yes. So the main focus of today's discussion is on context responsive leadership. And this is a broader area, but I will be talking more with focus on the leadership strategies of the school heads in the char areas. So char areas are the flood prone areas of Assam. So what are the leadership characteristics and strategies displayed by the school heads in the char areas of Assam will be the main focus of this particular session. And in the process, we will also be discussing this particular framework of what exactly is context responsive leadership, yes, both at the international level literature on school leadership and also the indigenous literature on school leadership on one side. And on the other side, we will be discussing about the leaders, the school heads in these kind of schools, which is in a highly challenging context. And what are the challenges they face, and how the school heads they navigate and negotiate through these challenges. So that will also be a discussion point. And also finally we'll also talk about what are the system level interventions that can be done in order to empower the school heads so that they get empowered and they're able to do better in their schools.
And before we move forward, we also have this term context responsive in our title also for this session.
Yes.
So I think it's very necessary to have this to know the significance of this term context responsive school leadership.
Right.
So if you could educate our viewers on this.
Definitely. So as I said, context responsive school leadership is a framework that is slowly being studied and researched upon currently in the area of school leadership. So we have heard about instructional leadership, and we've heard about distributive leadership and pedagogical. There's so many frameworks that is coming up. So what the researchers who are studying this particular field, the relationship between context and leadership, one main point that they're trying to focus is global literature in their desperation to study about different kind of leadership. They forget this important, significant point that context has a very important connection, very important relationship with leadership, because a different context elicit different kind of leadership from different kind of leadership strategies from people. So it is very important to understand what context is, and what is very significant here is for a leader to excel, he or she has to be context literate. So this is a word, it's a new word. And when I say context literate, it means that when a school head is in a particular context, he or she has to understand the socio-cultural aspect that is surrounding the school, the political aspect that is surrounding the school, the organizational aspect, and also there'll be a lot of significant factors surrounding the school and the learning. So a school head has to be aware of these things, and unless he or she is aware, they cannot perform in the school. So, so the person has to be context literate. And in the Indian context, if you see, India is very diverse with respect to its geography and the socio-cultural, the political aspect. So, like there are schools in the tribal areas, there are schools in the hilly areas, and there are schools in the border areas. So, all these schools have, as I said, different socio-cultural and aspect surrounding it. So, so it's very important for the school head to understand these things. And one important aspect I'd like to focus here is, it's not just enough to understand, be context literate, but there has to be a need to change oneself, which is the most, the crux of this. So once change one's beliefs, change one's values in accordance to the context. And this is very important to be a context responsive leader.
I think today's session will be more focused on the school leaders and principals,
right,
as you have already highlighted. So ma'am, can you give more details of the challenging context, the char areas of Assam that we are discussing here today?
Exactly. So this is a core thing today. So when I say challenging context, we already talked about context. So challenging context is a sub thing within the context. So what do you mean by a challenging context is a difficult circumstances to which the schools are exposed to. So it could be like a lack, a deficiency within the context. So I'll talk about it in the area of char areas of Assam subsequently. So the basic characteristics that defines a challenging context is deficiency, sub-optimum environment, and a severe lack of educational supportive structures or resources. So what exactly I mean by this is the basic requirements for living a comfortable life is missing in these particular areas. For example, in the char areas, if you see, there is lack of transportation. Okay, so as I said, it is a flood affected area. So you have to travel by boat, and the children have to cross numerous rivers to come to school, and there are no particular road that connects to different places. That is one. There's lack of electricity, there's lack of schools. Yeah, so maybe there are more primary schools, but there are very less middle schools and secondary schools. So the very question of right to education is questioned here. And there are health issues, because as I said, there's multiple floods and multiple 4 times in a year. You know, this is the frequency of the flood that comes in these char areas. So the people are always in a state of flux. Okay, they migrate, and most of them have the socio-economic status is very low here. The education level is very low. The number of people who have completed, let us say, the 10th standard is very, very less. And women education is very, very poor. And as I said, the schools are, though there may be primary schools, but it is in a very most of them are in a very dilapidated state. So what more can you expect? Because every year there is this flood and there is this erosion. So the schools that you see there are not the building kind of schools, but they are made of sheets, the tin sheets, no? So that they're mobile. You can pluck the school from here, and they have to move it to a different place, which is at a higher area where the flood doesn't affect them. So the schools are taken from one place to another, and many a times the buildings just remain there, you know, they get rusted. So during this time, the children don't have a school to go to. So these are the things, and there are social issues also, like early marriage among children, and I said there is poverty, there is health and sanitation issues, and Yeah, so these things all contribute to the level of education and the impact of education on these people. So this we can say is a very challenging context, and one has to wonder as to how a school head, when placed in such schools, how do they negotiate with the challenges. So that is something that is,
as you discussed about all the situations or the char areas. So when we talk about the challenges faced by the school heads in these schools, in the char areas, so what do you think are the most faced challenges?
Right. So the school heads, I mean, we did speak to a number of school heads. We had at NCSL, we had conducted a workshop, and we interviewed quite a number of school heads. So one thing that stands out among all of them is their resilience, you know, the ability to stand up to any kind of circumstances, and the very fact that some of them have been in the schools for 10 to 12 years, you know, and they, I mean, I can say that there is that passion. You know, they want to do something for the children, yes, and they feel that education and the school is something that can give them the escape from poverty, right? So when I did speak to the school heads, one important thing they were concerned about is, where are my children going? You know, they take a lot of effort to help them complete primary schools, and sometimes there are no middle schools, so the children go to a different, they have to travel, say 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers to go to a different school. So they wanted to keep track as to what is happening to the children who are going out from their schools. This is because they want to know where is education taking them. So this is something, they want an outcome. They want to know an outcome, the outcome of the efforts that they're taking, and they know that, as I said, they come from a very impoverished environment. The parents are daily wage workers who have no time for the children's education. So they go off to their fields, and children are going to school. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. So they know that the school is a place where the learning happens. Once they go back home, there's no learning because there's no electricity. The parents don't sit with the children. So they are aware of this, and they ensure that the school provides them with the kind of supportive environment that is required for learning. That is one. And so how, if you ask me how they do this, they try to make the school environment more you know, comfortable and entertaining, and so that it draws the children to the school. And you know that these children, some of them may be facing a traumatic background, childhood experiences. So the kind of dance, the kind of drama, and the kind of singing and dancing that they do in the school, this is done on Saturday clubs. So that really helps the children to stay, and the parents are also called to the schools to see the children perform these things. So one advantage of doing this is that the parents know the kind of education that is given to the children, and the parents also are aware of the purpose of education, right? So children, I mean, the parents are given a purpose, like what you should do in order to help your child come up in life. So if you see that these are the children for whom aspirations need to be built, right? So the school heads try their best to do this, and as I said, since the parents they do not have time to come to school, many times the school principals themselves, they go to the community. Okay. So they, along with a set of teachers, they visit the parents, they visit the homes of the children, and especially in the 10th standard class.
Yes, and as you all know that I just told you in the starting of the session that you are watching this program on PMeVIDYA channel number 6, 9 and 12. Also on our YouTube channel, that is NCERT official. So we will be continuing our session for next 20 minutes more. So if you have any queries, any doubts that you have in your mind, you can definitely raise with us through 3 mediums. First one is our phone number, that is 8800440559. You can also write to us at our email addresses. First, one of the email addresses could be dth.class6@cit.nic.in. And apart from these 2 medium, you also have one more medium, that is our YouTube channel NCERT official. You can drop your queries, any question that you have in your mind through live chat box option over there. So now we will be continuing our session with Subhita ma'am.
Yes. So I was talking about the kind of leadership practices that is taken by the school principals. So we were talking about how the children are retained in the school through improving the teaching learning process. So the other thing is the kind of relationship between the school principals and the community. So in such situations, what happens is, it is a community that plays a big role in order to give the confidence to the school principals to continue in such schools. Now, one challenge I did not talk about earlier was that in such schools, there is a lot of teacher turnover, right? When I say teacher turnover, the teachers, when they come, when they get recruited to such schools, what happens is, once they see the kind of environment and they get scared, you know,
they cannot adjust, they cannot adopt.
So they take a transfer and they leave the school. So I mean, looking at the point of view of the children's learning, it's very difficult for the children when there are no teachers in the schools. And in such situations, it takes a lot of years for the post to get filled. Yeah. So many of the schools that I visited, especially the secondary schools, there were the subject teachers like science and maths, etc., which were vacant for subsequently so many years. So imagine the kind of learning that can go into you know, this kind of situations. So one leadership challenge that that the school heads take in such situations when there is a teacher vacancy is that.
Yes, and we will be continuing this session, and ma'am was discussing about the challenges that are faced by school heads in the char areas of these Assam. We will be taking our session to the next level, and we will be asking our expert Subhita ma'am that since she has already enlightened our viewers, our students, about the challenge that has been faced by the school leaders there. So what are the strategies, ma'am, they come up with to tackle these I would say situation, these challenges?
Exactly. So I was saying about the kind of teachers who are absent, who are the vacancy of the teachers for a very long time. So what happens is that the school principals, they look for local support. Okay, so when I say local support, the educated people within the locality who are available to be taken in the form of a teacher. They are not formally recruited, but how long can you deal with the absenteeism and lack of a teacher, you know? So what the school principals I spoke to, what they were saying is that we look for educated people within the locality and we invite them to take classes for the children. So once this happens, the kind of at least there is something that is given to the children in the form of teaching the children. So that kind of suffices, you know, for a tentative basis. So that is one thing I was talking about, resource management, and also process. What they tell us is that they do a lot of career counseling for the students, And also they do a lot of vocational education, especially for the secondary level children, so that there is a focus on improving the teaching learning process. And as I said, they also conduct a lot of local trips.
Yes, and as our expert Suvita ma'am is going to explain and is already explaining all the challenges that are faced by the school leaders in schools in the char areas of Assam, and we will be continuing, and we will next move on to the intervention that could done to empower the school heads in these char areas of Assam.
Yes. So a lot of interventions can be done to empower the school heads. So basically, Mukta, since the school principals, they're doing their best to empower the children. They're doing their best to ensure that the children are out of the poverty and they develop aspirations. So what best can be done for the school principals in such situations? So one thing is the state education department can devise specialized leadership programs for the school principals, which focuses on the kind of context that they're living, right? So as I said, different context elicits different leadership practices. So a specific module that is specialized to empower them in this kind of context. So what are the leadership, like improving the parent-teacher relationship, improving the teachers, the kind of teaching, the kind of curriculum that they can do, and and improving the relationship between the school principal and the community, the SMC training, the school management committee training. So these are the areas that can be taken into consideration, and a lot of focus needs to be given into that, because from the way I discussed with the school principals, they are ready to do everything for the children so that they learn. And some of them, I have seen that they tell me that they provide clothes to the children, they buy books for them, and some of them encourage the children to apply for scholarships, so that the system takes care of the children, and they are so happy when the children move from the primary to the middle, and from the middle to the secondary schools. And many of them, they invite the children who have passed out of secondary schools and they have gone to higher education. They come to these schools and they discuss about their lives, you know. So one thing that happens is it gives them aspiration to the children. Otherwise, imagine a childhood where most of the time you have to help your parents in the fields. There is so less time to come to school. There is no scope for learning, and sometimes the children are married off at a very young age and left to fend for themselves. You know, this kind of a childhood, and then there is this school that is encouraging you to do well, you know, so that is a spark. And what I would like to repeat, that the school heads are aware of this, you know, that the school as a medium for empowerment, and they do what they can to do that. And as I said, that they want to track the children where they are reaching, and they want to study like what are the factors that can go to help them go beyond, you know, can they become doctors, can they become engineers, because this is so rare in such a challenging context, but the school heads want to know and want to reach there. So if that is the motivation of the school heads, then the system has to encourage them, empower them, so that they can do their best, you know. So,
and I think, ma'am, they are doing their best. Yes. I think despite the severe situations that are in the char areas of Assam, they are doing their best to not only empowering themselves, I think to to grow the children in such a beautiful manner, and they admit they are doing so, as you told in the session in the previously as well, that they get to know, they inquire about when they passed, the student passed out from the primary school, when they are going, where they are going, are they getting the enough education you're getting. So ma'am, I think that's a beautiful initiative that the NCSL is taking, and all to empower all the school leaders in school or the char areas of Assam. And ma'am, before we end our session here, I would like to request you to, can you give some concluding remarks on context-specific school leadership in India?
Yes. So, as I said, we need more literature and more research on context-specific leadership in the indigenous context. That is one. And secondly, one important thing I would like to focus, two important things I would like to focus here is that there is no one specific leadership style that applies to every kind of context. So context responsive, context specific leadership is something that needs to be studied and researched upon. And finally, when we look at the lives of the school heads that we talk to and we interview, one can say that the context doesn't push them to the wall. They fight back. You know, it's like climbing a mountain. You know, you fight against a mountain. So that's the most beautiful thing about this, and I just sincerely wish that they are empowered. And from NCSL, we do our best to empower school principals. And this let us hope that we do our best for the school principals, so that they already trying their best for the children, and once the entire system comes together to support the school principals, I think there's nothing.
Yes,
like
ma'am. I think with these little efforts only, I think these school leaders in char areas of Assam, they will be getting enough motivation to keep doing what they are doing already.
Definitely.
For the betterment of the education of these children in these areas. And we really wish you, ma'am, great efforts to be put on. And thank you so much, Sudhira ma'am, once again for being with us in the studio, for delivering such informative, enlightening our students on this platform about these char areas of the Assam, about the school leaders in these areas. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to all our viewers as well who connected with us throughout this session. For now, we are wrapping up this session. Stay connected to PMeVIDYA channel and NCERT official. Namaskar.